Hello and welcome to another episode of What's Next for Financial Advisors, the podcast. Today's conversation falls under the category of a story to tell and features my very good friend and client, Michael J. Fischer, President, CEO of Client First Financial. Before I introduce Mike and a little bit more and have him say hi, just want to take a minute or two, do a quick commercial. We are What's Next for Financial Advisors. We focus on coaching and consulting with advisors who are looking to identify their next levels of success and the steps to reach them. One of the key differences in the way we go about providing service to advisors, and I'm sure my good friend Mike will back me up on that, is we are very good and focused on rolling up our sleeves and actually helping to do some of the work for the advisors. So things get done faster, better, more efficiently, and we can move on to, as we like to say, what's next. While you won't see him, I want to do a shout out to our producer, our key man at What's Next, Mr. Brandon Kirst. Brandon, thank you as always for all your work to help produce these podcasts and all the other work you do in the marketing area and other ways in which you support the advisors that we work with. So, Mike Fischer, Client First Financial. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing fine, Bill. Thanks for inviting me on the podcast.
Excited to have you. I think we'll have a lot of fun. We should have been recording the stuff we talked about 5 minutes ago, and maybe we'll touch on some of that because that was pretty good stuff. But anyway, obviously, Mike, we've known each other for a while. It's coming up on 14 years that we've known each other and working together. I always tell people that when I think of my clients and the really good ones, they're all good, but the really, really good ones, I always hold you out as the example of the person who is the best business person, whose business just happens to be in the financial services industry. And we can talk a little bit about that as we talk about the business. We want to spend most of our time today talking about the role of philanthropy in your life and your business. But I want to say one more thing. Michael and I have built such a strong relationship that he actually was kind enough to get ordained and conducted my wedding a little over 8 years ago in the backyard in Narragansett. So, Reverend Mike, welcome to the podcast as well.
It was a beautiful day, and I was glad to do it.
And you did a wonderful job. And maybe you want to say a quick blessing for this podcast. We might need it.
I've been saying prayers for a while regarding this, but we're good.
All right. So cool. So, Mike, let's start with the basics of your business. Client First Financial. Where'd you get that name? What would you say are some of the highlights, most important things about that business you've built? And you've been in the business over 30 years. I forget the exact number, but tell us a little bit about your background, the business's background.
Well, I'm coming up on my 36th year of being in this financial industry. And I started out being more of a life insurance / needs-based approach. And over the years, as my practice started to evolve, I started focusing more and more towards retirement planning. The firm I was with at that time really focused on the public school employees in Pennsylvania and their pension. Everyone had the same pension, so there was an immediate connection with that group of people. But over time, that changed. I spread it out into other industries where people were really gearing up for retirement. And the other thing that has happened was I went from being part of John Hancock to a quasi-independent with John Hancock, and eventually being spun off and a total independent of John Hancock for various reasons. So what happened over time as we became quasi-independent, our office was allowing advisors who were housed in it to go out on their own. And that's when I started working with you, Bill, and we started looking at, okay, if we're going to start our own organization, how do we go about doing it? And one of the suggestions was, why don't you ask your clients why they work with you? And there's where, for 2 weeks, all the appointments I had, I asked people, my clients, why. And so we asked our clients, why do you work with us? And they came back with words like, you speak to us and not at us. You answer all of our questions. You never make us make rush decisions. So when Bill and I looked over that list, it became obvious that we always put the client first. And that's how we came about with our name, Client First Financial. And over the last 11 years now, is it 11? It's almost, my gosh, it's 13 years now that we've had Client First. Yeah, we've been able to grow that and get referred to other people because they know that Mike Fischer is going to speak and help us in ways that we can understand, which was very important.
And I can still picture that list, 3 pages, single spaced, of all the things you heard, and certainly the firm, and your ladies, Michelle and Christina, excuse me, Chrissy and Shelley, do a great job of supporting you and supporting the clients. I want to point out the furniture in the background. I don't know if this will be a video or audio podcast, but I do want to point out the furniture in the background. Michael, years ago, went out and bought an old barn a little bit down the road from where he was housed with the group, and built his office there. So it's a beautiful building. It's really nice. Mike, talk a little bit about the building, and then I just want to mention the couch in your background, and the leather chair. We picked out we went furniture shopping together, Mike and I, 13, 14 years ago.
Well, Bill, when I was looking for a place to move to, all right, I looked at a lot of places in Western Lehigh County, and the reason I wanted to be where I am or where I ended up, I have clients that go from Easton, which is at the border of Pennsylvania, all the way out to Reading. So it was almost like a central location. When I came across this barn that was in dire need of some help of getting fixed up, what I liked about the barn and the way I renovated the barn was when people come into my office, the first thing that they do is they look up because I have a 23-foot high ceiling. And you might think that that's what's the big deal about that? Psychologically, I always want my clients to think positive. We're always thinking up. I don't keep anything in the barn that has any reference to finances, like Forbes magazine or any periodicals like that. I don't have a TV on that's showing CNBC or Bloomberg or anything like that. And I certainly don't have a statue of the Wall Street bull bear that you see in most financial advisors' offices. And I did that deliberately because I want people to come in relaxed. I want them to know that we're going to be focusing on what they're trying to accomplish. And I don't need to woo them with things that they don't understand or that they fear. There's always one, if there's a couple, there's always one who has no interest in talking about this stuff. And I'm trying to set myself apart by doing that. And that has worked out tremendously. First thing that people do is they look up when they come in and they say, what a beautiful building. That's the tone I want. Okay. And it's very warm. It's not like your box office building. And that makes it a lot different too. You don't take an elevator to come to the barn. You walk in the front door. Okay. And I find that to be very welcoming.
And it's a fun environment. Having spent a lot of time there before I relocated to Rhode Island, a couple days a week, and we can talk about our Friday meetings, which would typically start on that couch and then end up at some establishment down the street or somewhere throughout the valley while we continued to work. It really is a fun place. There's a real energetic atmosphere to the place. There's a lot of laughter. And it's just you've built quite an organization. You've built quite a brand, Michael, and it's becoming more and more recognized throughout that marketing area of yours. All right, let's talk philanthropy. Over the last couple of years, you've really started to focus your own efforts, and actually goes back to 2012, maybe even before that. But you've started to focus your business more on helping people to understand the power of philanthropy, helping them to do charitable planning. You've started to talk more and more with clients about legacy, their legacy. So, you know how I find that stuff extremely interesting. Start with this. The company focuses primarily your services in 4 areas. What are those 4 areas? And then let's start to talk specifically about philanthropy and then perhaps legacy. So go ahead.
Okay. So the areas that we really focus in are investment management, retirement planning, um, legacy planning, and philanthropic planning. Those are the 4 areas that we're really focused on. And there's a lot of reasons why I wanted to go down this path. But if I can take a step back and say, well, why do I believe in giving back? So early in my career, I didn't really know a lot of people, even though I lived in this area my whole life. So I thought that joining a service organization would be a good way to get to know more people in my community without really understanding what they did. So I joined at Kiwanis, and then eventually I moved on to the Lions International, and the one that I'm part of is the Kutztown Lions. And what I found that the service organizations do is they give a lot of sweat equity and a lot of money back to the community. And I saw the power that giving back really had an impact to the local community. So it was from there, um, over time, when a lot of these service organizations at their meetings, they have guest speakers. And a guest speaker came in to our Lions meeting and talked about food insecurity. And food insecurity means that if you don't have 3 meals a day, you're depriving yourself of nutrition and all that. And I was shocked to see how many people, and this is in Berks County, which is next door to where I am. It was like 1 in 6 people are food insecure. And I was floored. And I thought it must be just Berks County. I then learned over time that it's everywhere. It's in anyone's backyard. And that really hit home to me because things that we take for granted, we find out that not everyone is as privileged as we are. When I say privileged, they just don't have the same resources for one reason or another.
Right.
So that really drove it home for me. And I really went, wow, I want to help my
Now I want to
community.
stop you.
Yeah.
I want to stop you for a second because you put a lot of that sweat equity in, and I always kind of joke with you a little bit about it. But the Lions, one year you won their Man of the Year award, the
Yeah, it's
Melvin
the
Jones Award, I believe.
Melvin Jones Fellowship, which is given to the Lion who in the local club that your peers say has done an outstanding job, and we want you to be recognized at the international level. So yes, I am a fellow Melvin Jones recipient.
And so it's
Which
not just I
none.
got involved. I got involved to meet people. I got involved. You got involved, and you actually rolled up your sleeves and you actually started doing things. And I know there were years where you were working at their carnival or other events to help, you
Yes,
know, support
that's
that
their
kind of stuff.
fundraising. Everyone has a fundraising event, and ours just happens to be at the two local fairs, the Kutztown Folk Festival and the Kutztown Fair. That's where we make the Lions, no pun intended, the lion's share of our money to help the local community of Kutztown and Berks County.
My friend, you're welcome to intend all the puns you want. You keep it up. However you want it to roll is fine with me. Now, so so you started Client First in 2012.
Nope.
11?
2011, Bill.
11.
2011,
Okay.
yes.
That's right. We started together in October of 2009 when you came to my little door and put your fingers and your nose in the window and said, "Hey, can we talk?" Um, so not long after that, you took your own personal philanthropy to a next level by doing what?
So I thought that one way that I could give back and make bigger gifts to the community was to start a donor advised fund or foundation. And a year after we opened up Client First officially, I went to the Lehigh Valley Community Foundation, which allowed me to open up my foundation through them. They're a very well connected organization. They know a lot of nonprofits that need assistance, And I just thought that would be a great way for me to even expand outside of being in a service organization. So it was February 1st of 2012 that I started the Client First Foundation. And what I wanted to do was fund it with my own money, because I've been very fortunate over the years to have a successful practice. And,
Right.
I just want to give back. And this is one way that I can do that through the foundation. And then through the foundation, I've been able to channel funds out to various organizations.
And for a number of years there, we would, in November, we would solicit suggestions from clients about organizations to contribute to. And you do anywhere from 5 to 8 different donations a year to different groups that were suggested by. I know we've moved on from that, and you'll explain why, and it makes sense. But I always thought that was a nice touch, and I know clients certainly appreciated that.
Well, yeah, and the reason I went that route is, in our industry, we're not allowed to really give anything back to our clients because it can be deemed as a conflict of interest or rebating or whatever. So I would ask my clients, hey, what charities do you like? Because I'd like to support them on your behalf. And we would go out in November, ask people, and we were really focusing on not 4 areas at that time. It was the arts and humanities, health and human services, education, and the environment. So I would get between 8 and 10 recommendations from my clients, and then we would go out to the foundation and spread that money out to those various causes. But then people at the Lehigh Valley Community Foundation said to me that if you really want to make an impact in your community, you have to focus on 1, maybe 2 at most, because that's really where you're going to see and really become known for helping out the community. So that's when I go back to when I felt the food insecurity. That was something that I really wanted to get involved with. So I kind of focus now just on helping those in need. And I only want to help those causes for helping those in need. And again, there's a lot of causes. It's not just one type of organization. I support many. And again, my clients have given me recommendations to these organizations that I was unaware of. And now I'm fully aware of who they are. And there's still more out there that if my clients say, hey, could you? As long as it's in that criteria, I most certainly will.
And you're currently serving on 2 boards, I believe.
Well,
Organization.
that's the other thing. When I got involved with the Lehigh Valley Community Foundation, I said, tell me some organizations that I should, kind of find more information about. And one of them was New Bethany in Bethlehem,
New Bethany
Pennsylvania.
Ministry. New Bethany
No, they're New
Ministry.
Bethany. They've
Okay.
changed their name to New Bethany,
Okay.
and I do sit on that board. As a matter of fact, as of this week, I am the president of that board.
Brandon, key up some
So
"Hail to the Chief" music in the background for His Majesty the President. Congratulations, Mike.
yeah, thank you. But then there's another board that I sit on the board of governors of Valley Youth House, and both of them help those in need. Valley Youth House is more focused on helping kids who are in lousy situations, providing them with shelter and guidance to try and lead them down the path of getting on the straight and narrow. Just to put it in generic terms, rather than going on the path that is not good, and we don't need that. So both parallel each other. Both have slightly different causes, but they all help those in need.
Great, great. And so your philanthropic efforts have expanded personally, and so you used that to start to direct clients towards philanthropic charitable planning and helping them to see the power of that as well. And you're out now starting to give talks about it in the community at different events. And so tell us what
Yes.
you want to tell us about the business aspect of it, I guess.
Well, the business aspect is this, and over time, okay, I have helped my clients, get to their retirement years. And we've done lots of planning. They have sufficient funds that they are living well, or they're living the way they want to live. Okay. And now one of the things that I'm starting to notice, and these are articles that we've been reading about for years, the baby boomers are going to be passing their wealth down to the next generation.
Yes,
And
eight
with
million
money,
gazillion bajillion dollars.
yeah.
Yes.
So I'm looking at this, and the last thing I want to see is my clients who have worked hard their whole lives um, lose all that wealth to taxes or improper planning, and a lot of them are very philanthropic in mind, but they really don't have the guidance. Like, how do we go about doing it? And there's where the focus of my practice is going to start really honing in on my current clients, who are at that point now where they don't need to support their children anymore. They don't need to support, their grandchildren unless they want to. All right. They're at a point now. It's like, okay, how can we support areas that have helped us over the years? And there's where I'm really starting to focus and helping them guide in how we can do that.
This type of planning is, I mean, other people can do it. Any advisor can help somebody, make a charitable contribution by, carving out some money out of an account and putting it in a checking account. But you're actually helping folks by having the conversation about their values and who has impacted their lives and the lives of their family members. You're actually guiding them to help them figure out for themselves, but once again, by you guiding them, who they should be impacting. And that's probably taking it a lot further, at least in my mind. I know it is because I work with a lot of advisors and have over the years. That's a big difference. That to me is another testament, if you will, to keeping clients first. And that's by helping them to understand things at a deeper level that they don't typically think about at that level.
Well, sure. And, most people, when they think about legacy, they're always focused on solutions. Okay. And I'm now starting to have them take a step back. And the first thing I want them to tell me is, what are their principal values and beliefs? All right. They all have them. We live with them every day, but we've never really identified them. So once we can identify those, okay, and there's an exercise that I put my clients through that we can identify what those are, then we can see, are those principal values and beliefs in alignment with the plan that you have in place? And if so, great. If not, then we need to adjust the plan. And then once you have the plan, then are the solutions in alignment with the plan? And the funny thing is, our principal values and beliefs can change at any time. So that's why it's important that we keep on top of that, so that our plan and our solutions are all in alignment. And it's really it's eye-opening when you see that most people, if you ask them what their 5 principal values and beliefs are, you're lucky if they give you 1. They might give you 2, but they don't know anything beyond that because they never thought about it. Okay.
And once again, the process, the conversation you take them through is designed to help dredge those up, pull them out of folks and help them to identify with them. And that to me is extremely
Absolutely.
powerful. That's above and beyond, helping them grow money for retirement or helping them to, plan for risk properly and that type of stuff. So,
well, absolutely. And when it comes to the legacy point, all right, they go, well, I have a will. It's like, okay, that's great. But, why most plans end up failing is the lack of communication. We've said this time and time again, that no one communicates to the family or key stakeholders. Okay, what does mom and dad or whoever want? What are we trying to do? Who's in charge and where is everything? And what is everyone's role in this process? It doesn't happen. What you get is the will's in the safe downstairs and here's the combination. Well, that doesn't really help anyone with anything. All right. other than the safe, number.
Right. And yes, the combination probably is important to pass
Yeah.
on as a starting point. But I want to point out that on your website, client1st, clientfirstfinancial.com, you have some videos with that talks about the need for family communication. You talk about some other things. I know that a favorite saying when it comes to legacy planning is it's not so much about what you leave to people, but what you leave in people. And part of that leaving in people is leaving in heirs, because this legacy plan has been developed and communicated, leaving in them a desire to continue that philanthropy, continue that legacy, by continuing to do good works that the parents are doing in large part because of the help you've given them in helping them to identify what those things should be. So let's talk a little bit more about this legacy planning, Michael. There's a process, I assume, that you go through with people, and what are some of the highlights? You don't have to go through everything, but what are some of the important
Well,
things? You already mentioned communication.
I mentioned most of them, Bill. It's like, so the exercise is the first one. It takes a little bit of time, but it's well worth it. And and when we do this exercise, if there's a husband and wife that come in, we separate them, because I don't want anyone influencing the other on, well, why are you saying this? We bring them together, and it's funny. They may have two different phrases that they got through the exercise, but they mean the same exact thing. I'll try and give you an example of that. They may say, one may say family, and one may say loyalty. And you're like, well, what are you talking about? It's like, well, my family comes first, but loyalty means I'm going to do everything for my family. So all of a sudden there's a connection there, but they just, in their heads, use a different phrase. And not every couple has to have the exact principal values and beliefs. They'll probably have
Right.
many that are the same, but they may not have all, and that's okay. And that's where we have to try and guide things, where one spouse may have things set up just slightly different than the other spouse. And there's where the plan comes in to kind of make that alignment. And then the solutions obviously will come after that. But here's the thing that happens at times, and you have to draw people back. You may have somebody who says, I'm interested in retirement, and I'm interested in helping my kids get through college. All right. And then they have an asset earmarked for retirement. They sell that asset. Okay. And instead of reinvesting it for the retirement, they go and they buy a car. So finally, I have to pull them back, and I said, "So what changed? Are you having a midlife crisis, or were you serious about the retirement?" So that's a conversation that can help guide us to make them, let's get back on track. And and that's a real life example that I've just had recently. And so this exercise has helped me pull them back so that they don't make irrational decisions on what they're said that they're trying to do.
Gotcha. And Brandon, Michael has helped me through midlife crises, late life crises. He's helped cause a couple crises. He's been extremely helpful on a lot of levels there. So, all right. So first thing is principle, values, and beliefs. Second thing is to make sure, I heard you say this before, I just want to make sure I'm getting this process out right. Second thing is to make sure that the tools, the investments, that type of stuff that they have in place aligns with the. Nope. Okay, go ahead. You're the expert.
Next
So
plan. What's your plan? Okay, and there's where you do the plan and you make the projections. Okay, if you want to do, retirement, do something for a family member, we want to make sure that your plan is in alignment with those principal values and beliefs. Then we look at the solutions. All right. So, solutions are easy, and solutions don't all have to be a product. All right. I want to, it could be, I want to volunteer. That could be one of my principal values and beliefs is giving back to the community. And in my plan, I have in there that I have sources of income that I can take that time and donate my time. That's a solution of trying to satisfy that cause or whatever you're trying to accomplish. It could even be coaching, for that matter. I'm just giving you some broad examples. It could be many. So it's the plan has to be second, and then the solutions are third, Bill.
Okay. And then the communication, right?
That's the key one.
Communicating to
And
the
that's
key
the one where
stakeholders.
most plans will fall apart. We got to get everyone together and communicate it. And I have to tell you, that's one thing that I'm seeing, unfortunately, happen more and more. The communication was not there, and you have families fighting over the silliest things because nobody knew the plan. And when I say fighting over the silliest things, one was named the executive of an estate and they live out of town. So then the one person who has no no say in anything has to do all the work. That was a total breakdown, and that's something that can cause a lot of problems. So just knowing that can also help people change legal documents and things like that, change solutions so that they fit more in alignment.
That's and you will help with those family meetings, those communications. You'll help to facilitate them
Yes,
to make sure they happen and
absolutely.
that they're okay. Cool. So big focuses in your business, retirement planning, investment planning, but now moving more substantially because as your clientele ages and you position yourself to do more and more, you're focusing more on philanthropy and legacy. And philanthropy can lead into legacy, but they could be two separate planning issues, from what I understand. But that's where you're spending a substantial amount of your time nowadays, is it not?
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. Just because of that reason, most of my clients are now getting older, and it's becoming more apparent that they need that guidance. And you know what, Bill? Here's the other thing. I'm now starting to get folks coming to me because
Right.
their current advisor got them to retirement, and that was it. Now they're not talking about anything else. Well,
Right.
you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
they hear the horror stories, and they want to have a conversation with somebody who can help them in that next
And
phase.
not every advisor wants to be involved with that type of planning or those types of conversations. So I mean, I think this philanthropy and legacy are specialties, that will, you really have to look for someone like you who is actually committed to, focused on, has done study on it, particularly around the understanding of people's principal values and beliefs, and done a little writing and some of that other stuff. So we didn't talk about this, but so it's not a zinger, but how are you feeling nowadays about your business, and how have your feelings changed perhaps as you've made this pivot towards philanthropy and legacy?
Well, I'm feeling more energized now because when you have an aha moment, let's call it, when you discover something that has been uncovered, and you look at it and you go, "Holy cow! There's a whole area that needs guidance that nobody's providing." It's helped me kind of get like a second wind, and like I want to make sure that I can get out there and tell this story about the legacy and philanthropic planning because it's so important that we can't just let it go by the wayside. We just can't do that anymore. Too much is going to be lost. Too much is at stake for us not to have it. And that's why I'm feeling even better about my practice because I'm like, okay, this is where we have to talk. All right. It's no longer saving for the kids' college. It's now like, what are you going to do with your stuff? Okay. I mean, you've done well. What are we going to do with it? What do you want to do with it? Is the proper question I'm asking. And and nobody wants to talk about it because what are we talking about? I'm no longer going to be here. It's like, well, I'm sorry. We have to think about it, and we should be talking about it. And if we, if I present it the right way, which I believe I am, it's going to make people really start to think and concentrate on this next phase of planning that has gone um, unfulfilled, even not even looked at,
Yeah, overlooked for sure. And I mean,
overlooked. Thank
while
you.
yes, while I won't be here someday, and we'll keep the cheers to a minimum, Mike and Brandon. But while I won't be here someday, to a minimum, I said, I certainly would like my impact to continue, my influence, some of the better influences to continue. And that's what this philanthropy and legacy planning is about. So, Mike, any last words of wisdom about anything we've talked about? Business, your personal philanthropy, legacy, anything that you'd like to share that you think it's important for the audience to take away?
Well, I was gonna say what I already did say right
You can
before we
say it again.
came on the air was, you know, this is this big wave that's coming with all this new wealth being transferred, and
Right.
it's something that we just can't take lightly, as I mentioned before, and it's really going to take a good advisor to sit down with clients and help them plot their way, plan their way to this next phase. And I just think it's as I said earlier, it's energized me, and I want to pass that energy on to others to make sure that they get the life, prosperity, and legacy that they desire, and that's most important to me in my philosophy going forward as I continue on in this in my practice.
I have seen the increase in energy over the last 2 years. I have seen the increased focus. I've seen a higher level of joy quotient. I've seen the improvements, and I'm very excited that you've let me come along for the ride, my friend. Um, I I want to again mention, and we'll have this up on the podcast, so people will be able to contact you. But it's client first financial.com. Michael J. Fischer, and Michael has a slew of. He's very credentialed, very, very, very high level of education and expertise in this business. And the thing I like about it is he's not just doing this planning, he's living the planning. And I think it's probably always better to work with someone who is actually living the things that they're telling you to do or helping you to understand and do. So, Michael, my dear friend, we didn't get into the couch. We didn't get into the Friday meetings. We'll have you back, and we'll have some more fun. But I think this has been a great conversation. I want to thank you for taking the time to share it with us. You're the best, Michael. I tell people all the time. Thank you, my friend.
Bill, thank you for having me on. This was a fun podcast, and I look forward to doing others. If you are willing to invite me back, and let's take this to the next level. What's next, right?
There you go. There you go. I mean, Brandon will have a lot to say about this, but I mean, if you use the company name repeatedly, I think that's a reason to have you back. So thanks again, Mike. Brandon, thank you for your efforts. This has been What's Next for Financial Advisors, the podcast. Please be on the lookout. You can find them on our website as well at what'snext.coach. And we have about 4 or 5 that we're putting out, and we're going to be doing a lot more and coming back to good friends like Michael with other topics of interest and just to have some fun. Once again, I'm Bill Rambo, one of the founding partners of What's Next for Financial Advisors. As we sign off, I'd like to remind you all that it's always, always a good idea, probably in your best interest, to spend a little time thinking about what's next. Thanks for stopping by. See ya.